Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio on Leadership Podcast. Money Radio, of course, is our program that brings to you the latest developments in Nigeria's business and economy cycles and issues of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odu, and today we have taken a look at a very important development in the ICT sector, and that is the controversy surrounding the proposed imposition of tax of 5% excise duty on telecom services being taken by the federal government in the bid to raise what they call fund for the nation in the face of the dwindling economic fortunes brought about by the issues of oil in the international market. And so today we're going to look at how feasible this very policy of the federal government has been. The controversy is always that there's some inconsistencies in the way the government and its agencies are trying to ram some policies down the throats of individuals and corporate entities in the country. And of course, there are some other developments coming from the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, who in fact rose against that proposed taxation of 5% excise duty on telecom services in Nigeria. So we are going to look at the possibility of this proposed tax, even though the government has not started implementing it, but they are bent on carrying out this important policy, according to the body language of the government officials, especially the Ministry of Finance and the Nigerian Customs that are behind the push for this policy of imposing 5% excise duty on telecommunication services around the country. What it then means is that if this policy is sailed through, Nigerians will have to pay more for text messages, for data, and other services in this telecom sector. So we're going to take a look at how feasible this particular proposed policy would be in the face of the hardship Nigerians are already facing. Remember also that we have about 7.5% increase in VAT, which is why the stakeholders are kicking against this particular 5% increase, which of course, when it comes on stream, that will make it about 12% or 12.5% increase in services coupled with VAT. So I'm here in the studio with an ICT expert, Haniel Jafaru, with whom I'm going to do justice to this very important topic. Haniel, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I know you must have heard, and I want to get your reaction first. When you heard that the federal government is planning to impose a 5% tax, they call it excise duty, to be collected by the Nigerian Customs. Now, it was in a stakeholders meeting, for the implementation of that proposed policy. So, but then they are facing a serious backlash. The stakeholders are not interested in that. They have actually rejected it. ATCON, that's the Association of Telecom Companies of Nigeria, licensed telecom company of Nigeria, the Association of National Subscribers are all against this program and saying that it is harsh, it is coming at the wrong time, it is going to draw a lot of, it's going to be a lot of drawbacks in the telecom sector. But then, Haniel, let's be more realistic here. The federal government is pushing for funding. It's pushing for where it's going to get resources. So if government does not tax services, how does government then raise resources in the face of the dwindling economic fortune being faced by the country as a result of the crisis in the oil sector?
Okay, well, it was the oil. This is not the first time that when the oil sector is passing through crisis, but even when it passed through, in fact, since 2008, there's been that advocacy for diversification of the Nigerian economy, and we've somewhat been bent on ensuring that we focus on oil. We know fully well that this day will come where our attention on oil is going to be forcefully taken away, thereby ensuring that we now look at other services. But the challenge is not even in the tasking or the tax generally. The challenge is, what have they used the previous tax money or taxpayers' money to do? You don't beat me the first time and I agree, giving me reasons why you probably have giving you reasons why I allowed you to probably flog me, and you're coming to say, okay, now I want to flog you the second time. There must definitely be reasons for certain decisions. It was 2020 that the Finance Act was enacted. It was signed into law, and that Finance Act largely increased the VAT to 7.5%. Now, 7.5% from that date till now, what has been the impact on the side of the masses? Where the VAT has been increased to 7.5%, we're not saying, it's not as though that there is any impact in line with the challenges that we are passing through. It's not as though that there is any situation. We're not feeling any impact as a result of that 7.5%. Now you're coming back to me and say, okay, there is still going to be, well, the excise is supposed to be for telecoms, but telecoms are saying if the federal government intends to force it to the telecoms, it means they will push it back, they will push it downward to the consumers. That means the consumers, as against 7.5%, would now be paying 12.5% VAT. It's bad for the industry. It's bad for the subscribers, and generally, again, we would not see the use for the money. If we've been seeing the use for the 7.5%, it really wouldn't be an issue for us to agree, knowing fully well that, okay, this is what this money is being used for. It's a very different case if you say, okay, the money is going to be a separate, it's going to be more of like a trust fund that will be used for a specific thing that will develop the telecoms industry. But that's not the case. It's going to be used, it's going to go into the federal government purse, and it's going to be disbursed as usual, which, because we're using practically a sharing formula, where everybody picks from the national cake and it ends there. But in this case, we are looking at, we need something that can practically or directly benefit the telecoms industries. If that is not the case, I myself, I'm not in support of it, just like the stakeholders.
Yes, indeed. You have made a very valid point here. That when they increase the 7.5% VAT, Nigerians expected that there should be some measure of development. There's some infrastructure we could see where that money has been ploughed into. Yes, we didn't see that, but it's not quite long that 7.5% increase in VAT has been, started being implemented. So would you also say because of that, the government that is already cash-strapped cannot try to expand its resource base by trying to also tax, because the argument is that on the side of the government is that, the Finance Act of 2020 has not been implemented because the government felt it is not necessary at the time that we're in. We're just coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, the impact of COVID-19 on the Nigerian people has not been easy. But then the government has to do its business. At least has it not given the people enough time to get prepared?
The impact of the COVID-19 issue has still not been easy. As those that lost their job, have they been called back? Those that had major concern as regards the whole COVID-19 thing was the palliative that were done by the government to ensure that Nigerians were not hit heavily by the COVID-19. So when they're saying that time was not the right time, we are still not in the right time, because the price of petrol is on the rise. The price of kerosene is on the rise. The price of gas is on the rise. The price of practically everything that cut across the consumables for the end user is on the rise. Looking at the major consumables, that case cascaded downwards to even the transport and the likes. You get, so it's still not a good time, and it all boils down to the mismanagement largely of the economy. Our monetary policy, our fiscal policies have been terrible, and that's why it looks as though we are the middle class and the poor class, if there's even a middle class again, are the one that's largely hit by this situation. We are in a phase where we're in a stage where everything largely is on the rise, and the only thing that tends to give us comfort, which is the data and the call that we make, now is likely going to be on the rise. Meanwhile, take note that the gas and the diesel that is on the rise is still being used by this telecoms company to run their mast. You get, every mast you see, they tell you the amount of diesel that it takes to power a single mast, and check out the numbers of masts that we have in the country. So it's not as though that the rise in gas and fuel is not affecting the telecoms industry. It's also affecting them. So if it's affecting them and you're trying to add more, they're already running on high cost. You still want to add more cost to them. Definitely they will fight against it. So it's still a wrong timing.
Wow, it's a long time, and I think the government, if I had just found itself in a dilemma. The case of what would they do right now? There's a financial straits, cash trap government looking for resources from anywhere. Probably there's no place to actually borrow money again, and then like we always tell them to look inwards to see areas where they can actually develop or generate funding. And so this viable sector, of course, that the telecom sector, the ICT sector, contributed 17.9% in the last quarter of 20. I think it was second quarter of 2021. Yes, which is a very huge contribution made to the Nigerian GDP. So apparently, it's like a very viable sector where a lot of impact is being made. So if the government is now being asked to look inwards to generate funds instead of going to or usually going to borrow funds, why don't we just give them the benefit of the doubt if they have to do that internally, so that we have an opportunity to generate that fund internally?
It's sad that I would not want to assume that the government don't have intellectual persons within its cabinet to be able to ensure that funds are generated internally without affecting the masses. There are ways funds can be generated without affecting the masses. Some time ago, we discussed on how we can capitalize on Nigerians in diaspora. That was the same strategy that Indians make use of when they found themselves in this kind of situation. I think it was in the 40s. The Indians capitalized on their own diasporans, and they were able to encourage their diasporans to come invest in India. And that largely brought about the funds, and in fact, that largely made India what it is today. So it's sad that we either we're not looking down at history or looking at what other countries that is Nigeria the first country to be experiencing this? No. Why don't we go backward and probably review other countries, what they did that made it possible for them to get out of the situation they were at that time?
Okay, we're going to look at precedents in history where countries that face this similar situation, like Nigeria, actually took example from to be able to come out of the quagmire that they are in. So Nigeria needs to look at the example of India, for instance, to be able to look for a much better way to generate resources instead of taxing or overtaxing the citizens, as the case may be. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the program. Remember, we're talking about the controversy surrounding the 5% proposed tax on telecom services. That will be when we come back. Don't go away.
sponsorship, and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're on to Money Radio on Leadership Podcast. I have been in the studio with ICT expert Haniel Jafaru. We're looking at the controversy surrounding the proposed 5% increase or 5% tax on telecom services that is generating a lot of furor in the Nigerian sector, as operators are saying, no, we're not going to accept this one, or else we'll transfer the burden to the masses. The masses are already been overburdened by the hardship in the country. You talk about the fuel scarcity, you talk about the prices of gas, kerosene, which is about 800 naira per liter now, gas, kerosene, PMS, foodstuff, and the rest of them all are going up. The prices are going up in the market. And so Nigerians are feeling really terrible with the news that the government is actually proposing another tax increase of 5% excise duty for telecom services. It therefore means that those of us who are buying data and using it for text messages and other for calls and the rest of them, we're going to pay more now to acquire those services, which is really, really on the side that is not going well for Nigerians. But then there's a controversy, Haniel, before I went on that short break. I was to talk about this move being driven by the Ministry of Finance. Now, if you look at the language of the representative of the Minister of Finance at that stakeholders meeting last week in Abuja, it was more like it's already a fait accompli. The Nigerians must just take it. So the stakeholders forum is just to inform them. This is government decision. They just have to be prepared to, comply with it. But on the side of the operators, they are enraged. Even see some of the reactions on the floor of that stakeholders forum. You will see visible anger, visible disappointment, and the rest of them. People expressing such emotions about what will happen if such a policy is being implemented. Now, there's another twist to it. The NCC, which organized that stakeholders meeting, actually were the ones that read through the Finance Act. It therefore means that the Nigerian Communications Commission said, okay, this is the Finance Act. This is what makes it possible that the president himself, using his prerogative, made it 5%. It could have been more. Mm-hmm. According to the government, other countries of the world, especially in Africa, are taxing telecom services more than 5%. So ours is just is good enough to go with 5%. But then the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy on Monday in Lagos at another forum in Lagos said no, that there is no way this tax will be possible because of the hardship Nigerians are facing. It therefore means that there's no synergy, no consistency in policy formulation, probably even policy implementation.
Yeah, the minister was not, if I understand the minister from that, from his statement, it was not against the implementation of the policy, it was only against the timing. Okay. Which largely even the stakeholders, because it's already in the act, so it's not a thing that we can pray out. We're in a situation whereby we would have to accept it, but it has to be the best time. Okay, and there is a time that will be the best time, not at the stage where people need to be comfortable. Largely with time, people will definitely be comfortable with the increment, and it becomes a norm that, okay, yes, this is the regular or general price for certain things and all that. Not now that we are not even sure, we are just going into it and all that. So I think really the timing is wrong, and that's why most persons are against it. But as long as it's in the act, it will definitely be implemented. But what time would it be implemented should be the time that it should, that should be what the stakeholders should also put in perspective. Another thing is it's not as though that they should just come out and say that we're implementing this. There should be a time frame so that it prepares Nigerian minds, the end users. Okay, by 2023 or by 2024, there's going to be implementation of certain things, certain duty, and it's going to be passed down to the end users. So the end users need to brace themselves up and prepare for the implementation, so that we are prepared, not as though we are not prepared for the rise in other things, and the ones that we are in control of. The other things we may not be in control of, but the ones that we're in control of, we are still not prepared for it.
Okay. It is also difficult to ascertain what time will be good enough. Just like every other person is saying time. What time could be good enough? Now, this act was enacted in 2020. That's 2 years ago. Now, the implementation was actually supposed to start in March this year. So you can see between March and August, we have approximately 5 months gap. Is 5 month gap not good enough time for people to get prepared?
If it was supposed to start between now, March and August, why are we not hearing about it now? Why was the stakeholders meeting held last week? Because I think beyond just the timing, I think there is a place for preparation. You need to prepare the minds of these persons that are going to bear these costs. Because the end users are just hearing about it, even though we know that it's in the act. How many of us read the act? How many persons understood the concept of the act, or at what time did the president approve the 5%? That when was it now passed? Because all these things are systemic challenges. Because once the president approves of the amount, before it's even announced, there should be more of like a meeting where it's stated that this amount has been approved. However, let's discuss to look for the implementation period, or the time that will be best. It's not, as I said earlier on, it's not as though that we can pray out this. We just need to accept it. But the time that would not implement it, that should be the reason for the first meeting in the first place. Let's talk about the implementation time, so that you have the time, you have enough time to tell the end users that there's going to be review of price, there's going to be this, there's going to be increments in something, so that they prepare for it. Because so in this case, they are just coming and telling you that you have to take this drug and you swallow it hook, line, and sinker, and it's not going down well. That's why the minister is saying no, it's not the best time. NCC are saying a different thing. The stakeholders are saying a different thing. The Minister of Finance and the Customs are saying different things. It's just because they've not been strategic meetings to sit down for all of them to sit down and decide, okay, what should be the best time? How should we pass this thing to the end users without, because this is stakeholders. The end users have not started their own revolt on this whole issue. They are dealing with the stakeholders, which is the telecoms and all that. The end users and NLC can come up and say, okay, you can't increase, not at this time. NLC can come and say, not at this time. There's so much hardship in the land. There's so many things you've not solved. What's it called? ASU issue and all that. Many associations and processors are going on strike. Industries are going on strike. You've not attended to that. You're coming to say you want to increase VAT on telecoms. So they are dealing with the stakeholders. So these are things that the first meeting that should be held would have addressed, because if they are finding challenges dealing with, I am convincing the stakeholders. I don't know how they are going to convince the end users.
Well, that's a dilemma on the part of the government, but they need this fund, and they need it like yesterday, because, like we said here, Aniel, the economy of this country is in dire strait. Look at the rate of inflation. Look at how we're now using probably even more than we earn to service debts. So I don't understand how the country will run, what time it will be to run in a manner that is in deficit like this, without generating the requisite resources.
There are
to
ways.
show up this, so that the
the first thing is who took the debt to put us in where we are. It is the government that took the debt to put us in where we are, because the masses largely don't have control over how you we can only cry and it ends there. We don't have strategic ways of ensuring that you don't take that debt. It's not as though that you have to come forward with a referendum when you want to take a debt. You get so, but they took the debt. When in the course of them taking that debt, they should have the loan. Sorry. They should have designed a means, knowing fully well, knowing our revenue, knowing the amount that they're going to use to service the debts they are taking or the loan they are taking, knowing the amount that they use in servicing previous debts. They should be able to know, okay, is this thing feasible? Is this the best way for us to get money? Is there no any other way? Must this loan be foreign based? Can't we look at localized way of getting local funds instead of going foreign, so that we don't have to service it? There are just different ways. But again, what was the money that was collected, the loan? What was it used for? Because there are just so many things you ask yourself to see if there is need for you to even agree to what they're saying. What was it used for? Was there? I'm not saying that they didn't use it for something, but the masses, did they feel the? Is it about feeling the impact? Is there an accountable way? Can we say, okay, this amount, this is what you collected for, this was what it was used for, and can we go and see this visible evidence of the reasons or how it was used?
All right. If you're still with us, we've been talking about the controversy surrounding the proposed 5% excise duty to be imposed on telecom services in Nigeria, and the reactions of the telecom operators and, of course, the subscribers who are saying, no, this is not the time to impose taxes on services or telecom services on Nigerians, because of the prevailing economic situation of the country. Now, the stakeholders and the government are working out plans on the appropriate time, maybe, to begin the implementation of this particular policy, because it has been enacted already in the Finance Act of 2020. So it has already been a done deal. It's a matter of time before this policy will be implemented. And so Nigerians should get themselves, should brace up. It's a matter of time before they begin to pay more for the services, telecom services, such as making calls, text messages, and data for other services. So here is where we are in the country, where we have abundant riches and resources on human and material levels. But then the country's management of those resources have brought us to this particular storage site, where we have to now tax our citizens almost all the time to generate resources. No problem. We shall see how this policy plays out in due course. But right now, it has not been a very easy thing for Nigerians. So, on that note, we come to the end of today's edition of Money Radio on your Leadership Podcast. I've been in the studio with Anel Defaru, an ICT expert, with whom I've done justice to this particular topic. Anel, once again, thank you so much for joining us on this program.
It's always a pleasure.
So we say, stay blessed, stay out of trouble. Goodbye, and God bless you.
Thank you for watching. Sponsorship and advert placements. Please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.